Wow. 1074 has dropped, and for everybody saying what a tame chapter this has been, guys, I could not disagree more. I feel like this was the most hype chapter we have gotten this far, personally. I don't even know where to start, so I guess we'll just run down the line a little bit of this is a very off-the-cuff, off-script video that I just wanted to get out, so let me just start with the Pacifistas, man. Oh man, oh man. I haven't talked about it a whole lot yet. The Seraphims have kind of taken the front and center stage of the Vegapunk robot so far. But I had a feeling, ever since seeing that Pacifista cop, the Pacifistas are going to get, some sort of relevance. I didn't know if it was going to be, that Order 66 capability was implanted into them already, and them, along with the Seraphim, were eventually going to make the flip to the Revolutionary Army, if that even ends up happening. I didn't know if it was going to deal with Bonnie stuff, which it very well could. I think there's this one main Kuma who we're kind of following on the island. Maybe it'll have something to do with Bonnie, right? Overall, these overhauls make sense. It doesn't make sense that Vegapunk wouldn't have worked on the Pacifistas as well as the Seraphim and upgraded them all along the way. 50 Mark IIIs. That was crazy, seeing them come out of their shells and just go walking along. It seems like the CP agents are inside of them too. Like they're walking prisons. They could just open their chest and stuff the people inside of them, because you see them after that confrontation in the square, like the procession of pacifistas are walking past, and the CP agents are like jostling around inside. Stop moving, let us out of here. That's crazy. I don't know why. Why would Vegapunk have added that into the Pacifistas? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Sentomaru, he's still alive and kicking it. Shout out to him. He is going against the Navy. He's going against Kizaru, we can assume. He is getting phoned. They're not quite sure that he's a traitor yet. It's kind of crazy right now for Sentomaru, but he at least got away from Cypher Pole. At some point, he's badly wounded. I could see Kizaru at this point finishing him off, I think, because Kizaru seems to be totally loyal to the world government. I think that'll be his arc in the long run, is his lazy justice, his ability to pass off the mission to a higher power like Saturn, like the rest of the Gorosei. Could be seeing the end of Sentomaru here, but thank goodness for him for now. He got those Pacifistas rolling out. They are under his command, so it's not like the authority chip is going to work, which, that being said, I don't know, the Pacifistas might not respond to the same rules as the Seraphim, these Mark IIIs. I'm not too sure on that yet. We still have a lot to learn about them, obviously. But from what we have learned so far, guys, the armies just keep building up. I I can't take it anymore. I'm sorry, this chapter was so cool. We get a little bit of the Pacifista's powers. There's a big bubble shield that kind of like absorbs the blow and then just casts it right back out. The CP agents are a little taken aback by that. I don't really get why. That seems very in line with Kuma's powers, but enough about the Pacifistas. Next up, we've got Luffy. He's exhausted, he blames it on running around the whole base, but I think we as the readers can kind of cue in. That was probably more attuned to Gear 5th. I think Gear 5th has worn him out, totally. It makes me wonder what each consecutive use is going to be, if this isn't a full awakening, if this is, he's a Zoan, maybe this is his form of the imperfect awakening. Since he's a mythical, it's not a full, like, the the fruit takes over the person, the animal, the being takes over the person, but since it's mythical, there's still a bit of that play. Maybe he still got a chance to reach that full awakening and have the full capability of his powers. But he does not have that yet. He does not have that yet. He's exhausted. Now, we also have, I want to switch over to the satellites real quick. Stella is still missing entirely. Bonnie apparently isn't. Shaka has eyes on Bonnie, which was very interesting to me, because at the time of him saying that, Bonnie would have been in the memory, right? Point being, Shaka is looking more and more sus by the day. He's prioritizing finding the Stella. Of course, that seems great. You know, that seems like the natural first step. He's in charge of repairing the Frontier Dome, though. He says, finding the Stella is our main priority. You guys, you all focus on that. I'll focus on the Frontier Dome, which is the secondary concern, he says. He frames it as this thing to worry about in a second, but he's the one that's going to take care of it. Very, very suspicious. More suspicious than that, he gets phoned by Pythagoras, okay? And he says, third floor of C Tower is empty. Shaka says, okay, well, then try, and then it gets cut off. Nami interrupts him to the reader. I don't think he gets interrupted, of course, but he gets interrupted by the reader. That leads me to think, where is Pythagoras? Where is the location that Shaka sent him? How is that going to be relevant? Obviously, in a few pages, in a few panels, we catch up with Pythagoras after the little Bonnie flashback, and it's very short. He's just wandering through some hallway. It's very nondescript of where he is specifically. He hears something behind him. He looks, boom, seemingly done with Pythagoras. I don't know if I doubt he's out. You know, we saw Atlas get bodied, absolutely wrecked, face destroyed by Lucci, but she's back up. She didn't have a whole lot to do in this chapter, but she's back up and doing fine now, it looks like. Looks like she'll be able to be an asset for the Straw Hats moving forward a little bit. Shaka, though, looking mighty sus, more and more by the minute. Stussy also looking a little suspicious, you know, I don't know, she's just turned coat so many times. Maybe I'm suspecting there's another one that we're due for. Could be very wrong there. I'm not too positive. I did love that whole, you know, kind of deviating from the satellites and everything, but when they're preparing to search for Vegapunk throughout the lab, Zoro's like, I'll go look for him, you know, he's got the sawed-off head, right? And everyone is like, no, maybe you should stay back. Sanji especially is like, you know, he calls him Mosshead, but it's actually the first time that they're just friendly to each other without, like, heightened sense of respect or badgering or anything. Maybe in the official translation it'll be a little more of that, but I found it interesting that Sanji was concerned. He was like, who's gonna find you when you're done looking for him? Let's stay with this scene a little bit. Kaku and Lucci, they've got to be awake by now, I think. I think the shading of their eyes and Lucci's pissed off expression, I think that kind of insinuates they're awake right now. And it's interesting that they're framed that way when we're revisiting Water 7. Luffy and Zoro specifically. Takes me back to Water 7, Zoro says. I wonder how Ice Boss is doing, Luffy says, over the panels of them with the shaded face. I really like that touch. A lot of people I'm noticing are wondering what that means for Iceberg or Water 7. Maybe it means something. Maybe it means, you know, keep them in the back of your head for events coming up. To me, I feel like that is a seed that Oda is planting for Kaku and Lucci's character development. They have now seen what a long-term betrayal is like, and they got it fivefold. You know, they were undercover in Water 7 for 4 years. Well, Stussy was undercover for 20. You know, like, she was probably valued as a pretty big asset. Maybe, you know, maybe she was a friend to whatever extent the Cypher Pole agents, you know, become friends. We saw camaraderie in CP9 though. Don't tell me there wasn't camaraderie there. I would say that, you know, Kumadori, Fukuro, Bluno to a muted extent, Khalifa to an extent, you know, she had the sexual harassment shit, but she was very comrade-like with them. Lucci, maybe a little bit less so, but I think I saw that with like Khalifa and Bluno and Kaku at least. The others, not so much. I think, you know, he probably had his ideas about those agents, but definitely at least Kaku. I think there could be an argument made, especially given how they're framed together. Even still, they're the agents sent to Egghead together with Stussy, the third agent. But point being, in this scene, we're still focused on the missing Vegapunk. Nobody knows where he is. Apparently, Bonnie is showing up on the cameras. Shaka suspects maybe Vegapunk is, you know, just in a blind spot. I think he says... I could have sworn he said, like, maybe he's taking a nap in a blind spot, but maybe I don't know. I can't find that right now. Once again, the drip, you know, Brooks, Stussy, and Zoro getting that drip. Egghead is the island of drip, as well as the past and the future, however you want to look at it. Let's move on to the next scene, though. This, oh man, I was reading this and I was literally speaking out loud. I was, you know, just horrified for poor Kuma. This was barely scratching the surface of his origin. Bonnie is there in the flashback herself. You can even tell it's not a pure black page now. You know how the pages go to black for the flashbacks? It's like a weird, and maybe this is just for the scan translation, we'll see with the official. It's like pointillism almost of the page. But she is there, she can't really do anything. She can kind of speak and move and stuff, but she doesn't actually physically move. Her words don't have any effect on the environment. She can only watch as poor Kuma. And I heard, I don't want to like start crying and talk about this too much, but you know, Kuma is getting messed up. And Bonnie doesn't seem to know what this memory is. They're cracking him over the skull with clubs, like he's just a little kid here. He looks like how Oda drew him a while ago, where he was reading the book and he had the little backpack on. Like, he's cute. He's a cute kid, but he's just getting the hell beaten out of him. He says these people are trying to get him back somewhere. To where? They're in a grassy field, but you can't see the people who they are. You can only really see Kuma and Bonnie. You can't see anything of the background of any... I don't know if that's the memory or if that's just what Bonnie's focused on. Very, very ambiguous what we're supposed to take away from this part. Other than that, Kuma had a terrible history, you know, from as early as childhood. His story is going to be tragic. And there's going to be beauty to it. Obviously, we've got Bonnie. Hopefully she will carry on Kuma's legacy and be the beauty of him that can be given to the world and can experience the beauty of the world. But Kuma is framed to be the most tragic figure we've met thus far. I don't know who these people are. I do suspect, just based off this one panel toward the end, there's a shot of a castle, there's a shot of a guy with a weird little haircut looking thing that looks very similar to the Roswald family. I almost forgot it for a second. The Roswald, like, I forget the father's name, but Roswald Sr. It looks a little bit like his haircut, so you gotta wonder, was this at Mary Joie? Was he getting beaten by the Celestial Dragons? What is it? What were they doing to him there to make him say, kill me here? If I go back, I'm just gonna die anyway. Just kill me here. This is a kid talking. You know, this came out after work, or actually in the last 30 minutes of my shift, and I read the cover page. That was cool. And then I, you know, clocked out, and I started reading in my car. I didn't even go home. I read the whole chapter in my car, and I was sitting in the car just on the verge of tears at this little snippet of a flashback we get. Not much more to really talk about there, unfortunately. Bonnie pushes herself out of the memory. She can't take it anymore. We start intercutting again with Kuma climbing the red line. He's still going. Shoot him down. He's making good progress. He looks about as pained and as strained as he did in that little flashback. Whether he's the real Kuma or not, if he's the memory of, or the consciousness, the programming, if you will, of the Iron Giant in the main Kuma body now, it's still Kuma. Like, there's still, knowing One Piece, knowing Oda, knowing Vegapunk, there's probably still a snippet of him in there. Bonnie thinks of her father smiling, and she knows she has to go back in. She can't take it, but she has to. She has to find something. She has to dig as deep as possible and find something. Now, I already talked about this. This is where Pythagoras seemingly gets wiped out, and then, oh my god. I actually had this spoiled for me to a degree, but even with spoilers in One Piece, I read the spoiler or I accidentally get spoiled, whatever, and then it still hits me like I didn't know. We cut to the World Economic Journal. It's flying through the sky. It's carrying along. Big News Morgans is back. King, amazing, amazing character. I'm so interested in how he's going to play out in the final war. He's still spinning propaganda, you know. He gets the scoop on the world government moving to kill Vegapunk. He hears it pretty objectively, it sounds like. He knows the Straw Hats are there. He knows there's a big force coming in to take Vegapunk and his satellites and everything out. But it's a story. And he decides, you know, world government's still the top dogs. Let's just appease them. He really isn't doing it for their sake. He's just like, they'll pay us for the propaganda, get off our back a little bit. Just frame it as, you know, Straw Hat Luffy the Yonko is taking Vegapunk hostage. And who should say that's outrageous? But Vivi is here. She's back. Finally, everyone. I thought we wouldn't be getting her until Elbaf. Nope. We're getting her right now. How much? I hope we still get some of her next time, but that will also mean getting more Wapol, who I really wasn't expecting to be involved with this. He's one character who, you know, he came back for the Reverie. He came back, he had his cover story about the Black Drum Kingdom as well. But it's like, how is Wapol going to factor into the final saga? I have no idea. Why is he here with Vivi? We need to know why they're here. I expected Kuma had something to do with Vivi's disappearance, or she was catapulted to, or Kuma catapulted her, excuse me. She was brought into the Eames castle, you know, brought into the inner sanctum, taken hostage, essentially. She doesn't really like Morgans. Wapol says Morgans took them in, though, you know, which is kind of interesting. I wonder how that happened, what the getaway was like. Surely there was a big scoop involved somewhere. Maybe it was such a big scoop that Morgans was like, yeah, come along, like, I have no time, or yeah, that would be great, I can get the full scoop from you right here. There's clearly some sort of information, you know, news gathering angle that Morgans was taking with that. But for Vivi and Wapol, I was having a hard time figuring out exactly what that was about. And then we finish up the chapter where Morgans is saying, don't tell me how to do my job. You were crying just yesterday, I can imagine, about Cobra. Morgan says, my words can shake the world. Very foreboding final lines from Morgans here for the chapter. My words can shake the world. Besides, news isn't about fact or fiction. It's about entertainment. One Piece End, chapter 1074. I don't know if we have a break next week, guys. I hope we don't. I desperately want to know. I wouldn't mind. It's so hard to say what I want out of next chapter. I would be fine with a full Morgans, Vivi, Wapol, chapter. I would be fine just going full into the Kuma origin with Bonnie. I would be down for a Vegapunk search. We didn't even see Kizaru or Saturn here. They're probably still on their way. I don't think the Navy is here yet. Seems like they're phoning Sentomaru to get the jump on that, to try and see what he can do since he's there. But obviously, you know, he's made his bed. He's on Grandpa Punk's side, and even if that means he's on Straw Hat Luffy's side, he's on Straw Hat Luffy's side. Luffy he seems to have full faith that Luffy can get the job done if they can just get off the island. If they can just do it already. I think he knows, probably, that Kizaru's on the way. Saturn, maybe, because that was a plan already in place. Obviously, why is Saturn with him? For the plan already in place. I have to think that has to do with Seraphim controlled testing, you know, making sure the Gorosei do properly have clearance over Vegapunk, that they do have the ultimate authority there. Possibly just to see what they can do. I don't know if the Gorosei have seen exactly what they can do yet. Lots of speculation, lots of stuff. We'll probably just get a little bit of everything next time. I think that's kind of where Egghead is going to go from here on out. Besides the climax of each story, kind of taking the focus for that chapter, it's going to be steady build on steady build for every character. I think the satellites are beginning to get wiped out, though. Pythagoras dead. I'm not entirely sure. I bet his big body is going to be found, but that little head that actually controls everything, I bet that'll be gone in that type of way. But I do think that is the beginning of the satellites going down one by one. I do think we're going to see a betrayal from one of them. I think it's Shaka. Shaka's just been looking more and more sus, and I think the epithet of good, the idea of being good, is going to be played on its head, where it's this very objective, simple 2 + 2 style of good that fails to see the moral grays, fails to see how the world government is wrong and rather villainous and oppressive, whereas the Straw Hats, although they're pirates, they are liberators wherever they go. They cause havoc, they cause chaos, sure, but that's something about One Piece. Chaos is not inherently bad. If you have controlled chaos, which for the most part the Straw Hats are controlled chaos, they can keep themselves in control, they are in control of the situation. I'm rewatching the anime with my girlfriend now, and we saw the scene in the Baradier where Luffy's going around the kitchen, he's beginning his chores, and he's like breaking dishes in the sink, and he can't really sweep right, and then he burns his hand on the wok. That wasn't too controlled chaos, but I'm not really talking about moments like that, like little gags. I'm talking about the full thing. To bring it back to Baradier again, him smashing the fin, that was controlled chaos to stop the fire that Pearl was spreading, to give the Baradier and Sanji and him a chance to actually fight back in the ways that they could with Zeph in hostage. I digress a little bit though. Guys, 1074 and 1073 for that matter, I did not have a chance to do that video, just life has gotten in the way. I had a bunch of scripts planned, but I'm hoping to roll those out pretty soon. A lot of them are still pretty good. I just wanted to throw this 1074 up because this chapter rocked my world. I don't know where people are getting that this was a tame chapter. This felt like a balls to the wall chapter to me. Maybe I'm just a new weekly reader. Maybe that's all that chalks up to, but I don't know. I'm very excited for what 2023 has in store for the story. Guys, thank you so much. I will see you next time. Hoping to get some Last of Us content out. Hoping to get, obviously, those One Piece scripts out. And I also have some other stuff that are in the pipelines as well. Thank you so much. Please leave a like, subscribe, and a comment if you want to add to it. What do you think the satellites are going to do? If there's a traitor among them, who do you think it is? What do you want to know about Kuma's origin? Anything you guys have in mind. Thank you so much again. Take care.